This video is going to be my reaction to the Ravens' 30-23 win over the Chargers in Los Angeles, a game that was in some ways very similar to the contest between these two teams last year. This one moves the Ravens to 8-4 in 2024. They rolled up 215 yards rushing, led by 140 from Derrick Henry. Got a 51-yard touchdown explosion from Justice Hill to really take control in the fourth quarter. The rushing stats were almost eerily similar to the matchup in 2023. If you recall, the Ravens won that game 20-10 after running 35 times for 197. Well, tonight they ran 37 times for 215. And when we get to the Chargers rushing stats across those two games, you'll see that the similarities are even more striking. In this case, however, there's no turnovers, and the Ravens fell behind 10-0 early on after 3 possessions each, and then went on a tear offensively. We scored on 5 consecutive drives to eventually take a 30-16 win, or 30-16 lead, when Justice Hill busted off that 51-yard touchdown run on an option play with about 7.5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Lamar Jackson really wasn't needed to carry the load for much of the night. He did finish with an efficient 16 of 22 passing number for 177 yards, 2 touchdowns. I thought he missed 2 throws early, easy throws that were high. The one to Aguilar that was in fact called back for a penalty for a leg whip on Patrick Ricard, that one looked like it was kind of elevated as well, but Aguilar was able to go up and get it. Nonetheless, it didn't count. Lamar did create space twice tonight where there was almost none. And basically, Bosa got through one time, and Lamar was able to escape, get out to right side, and complete like a 30-yard bomb to Zay Flowers. Another one, I believe he found a receiver in the middle of the field. And then a third time early in the third quarter, the first possession of the third quarter, he's able to step up and kind of flip it to Mark Andrews for like a 9-yard gain. The big one was Flowers along the right-hand side in the third quarter. How often do we need him to do those things? That's the key, in my opinion. If we want to beat the good teams, Lamar can do those things. We want to try to avoid that as much as possible, avoid over-reliance on him. And tonight's an example of how many guys can make plays when they're given opportunities, when the offensive line does just an average to above average job in most cases. Lamar had that beautiful bomb to Rashad Bateman for a 40-yard touchdown in the second quarter. Late in the second quarter, in fact, while the Ravens offense was taking control, Henry punished the Chargers defense at various points. I really think we could have done more in the pass game. I think that the matchups that Bateman and Flowers had were in our favor consistently. Whoever they were putting out there to Bateman's side. I understand that Cam Hart is hurt. Asante Samuel, I think, has only played 4 games this year. So they were down 3rd-string corner, 4th-string corner. Whoever they were, they could not match up with Bateman. Another factor there, though, is we as an offensive staff obviously recognize the edge we had in the run game eventually. I'm not sure where it happened, maybe middle second quarter. And when we weren't predictable, at times we still were, but when we were not predictable, the Chargers defense had no answer. I think it's pretty obvious that them being number 1 in the NFL in scoring defense, a lot of it has to do with the style of play calling that Greg Roman has, such that the game is shortened. They're really not that high of a quality defense, in my opinion. That did not, at least to me, you're welcome to let me know what you think in the comment section. I did not see a top 5 defense in the NFL from a scoring standpoint. Certainly we as Ravens fans don't have any right to talk how many points we've given up this year, and the numbers are what the numbers are for the Chargers, but matching up against our offense, they did not look like a similar defense to the Steelers, the Chiefs, or maybe even the Browns, just from a size, strength, and athleticism standpoint. It's an interesting dynamic in that the Chargers came in on a 4-game win streak. They were also averaging 28 points per game in that span. So far in 2024, LA's defense had only allowed they had allowed 20 points or less in every single game except last week's 34-27 win over the Bengals. Lamar, Derrick Henry, Bateman, Justice Hill, Flowers, we just hung 30 on them. And yes, it did take some big decisions to get that done. John Harbaugh going for it on 4th and 1 late in the second quarter from our own 16-yard line. 2 minutes left in the second quarter. I mean, wow, you have to give him credit for saying we can score. We don't want to give up possession of the football because to that point we're down 10-7. J.K. Dobbins, he'd been putting up yards on the ground and catching the football. To see him leave the game injured, I really don't even want to talk about it. The dude is not going to be hurt seriously. Let's put that out there in the universe. The football universe owes him a complete season, at least one. The Chargers' offense was effective in getting out to a 10-0 lead. So at the point in time that Harbaugh makes that decision, I think there's a lot of factors at play. I think he recognized that our defense was playing well to that point, even though the Chargers had scored 10 points already. And he thought, maybe if we don't get it, I think we can hold them to a field goal and still give us time to score. I think that's a consideration here, in that if we didn't get it, 2 minutes left, we can hold, maybe get points, and then score again to open the third quarter because we deferred. I have to give Zach Orr's defense credit overall for slowing down the Chargers' scoring pace. Again, they came in averaging 28.5 points per game. They did get to 13 with the late touchdown at the end of the second quarter that I really don't have good things to say about from a Ravens defensive standpoint. But they came in averaging 28.5 points in their 4-game winning streak, against the Bengals, Titans, Browns, and Saints. For the game tonight, Herbert was 21 of 36 passing for 218 yards. Check out the similarities to last year. It took him 44 attempts last year to get to 217 yards. He did have a touchdown and an interception. But through 8 quarters of football against the Ravens defense, he's not throwing the ball for tremendous yards per attempt or yards per completion. Now, there was a number of defensive pass interference calls tonight that kind of add to that number. It doesn't go down in his individual stats, obviously. And look, Quentin Johnston dropped at least 2 passes. I thought they had another drop, maybe by a running back, and a receiver potentially could have caught a ball. Troy Aikman tried to cover it. But to me, it looked like Marlon Humphrey tipped it. I believe it was Palmer. On the other side of the coin, though, Gus Edwards makes a brilliant one-handed catch in the third quarter. That was a backwards pass. Kyle Hamilton is there immediately. If Gus doesn't make that catch, it actually technically goes down as a run. I've seen the stat breakdown already. That ball is live on the ground if he doesn't catch the football. So there were things that happened in their favor that kind of offset, and in my opinion, almost balance out some of the drops that they had. They had 2 really questionable defensive pass interference calls go their way. 2 of the ones on Humphrey I think are terrible. The one where McConkey didn't catch it along the right sideline, and initially they declined because it was ruled complete. Replay assist correctly ruled that he only got 1 foot in bounds. That's not pass interference. Both of those guys are making contact with each other. The uncatchable ball up the left sideline, Palmer doesn't run a route at all. I think it was Tyrod in our Discord identified it. He runs no route at all. There's literally 0 effort in anything he's doing. Basically takes the play off. Herbert throws it up. There's contact between both guys. It almost seems like they're rewarding guys for not getting open. There's contact between both of them. Yes, sure. How does the receiver get to make contact, but we don't? I guess that's the game now. So if that's the game, we should see some of those against when we face the Steelers again and the Chiefs in the playoffs. Those 2 teams are just as grabby and physical as we are at times, and perhaps even more so. Now, I guess you could say maybe it's our style of play. We're not willing to throw up more prayer balls because that's what 3 or 4 of those were tonight by Herbert. And again, there's some real similarities in how their offense was forced to throw the ball more. Again, Dobbins went out at halftime, so that has an impact. I understand that. But when you check out the rushing stats from 2023 to 2024, tonight's game, last year, the Chargers were 19 carries for 86 yards. Tonight, 20 carries for 83 yards. The similarities seem glaring to me, perhaps not as much to you. Feel free to let me know in the comments section. But in both games, as the game progressed, we were able to put them in a number of second and long situations and also eventually hold them to field goals 2 times. Now, I do have to talk about the late second quarter situation. I'm not going to call that a hold to a field goal. I don't know what it is. Malik Harrison played a whale of a football game tonight. And if you don't like that, I don't know what to tell you. He had 13 tackles, a number of really nice run stops. J.K. did juke him one time on a pass to the right flats in the second quarter, but overall he played really well, except for the completion to Herbert to Palmer, over the middle with 2 seconds left in the second quarter. I'm actually not blaming Harrison on this one. I have no idea what our coach's perspective or thought pattern is. It's 1st and 10. The Chargers have the ball from their own 49-yard line, 7 seconds left in the half. What do they need? 10 yards to get in field goal range? Maybe 9, something like that, from being in serious field goal range? We're up 14-10. We get the ball back to start the third quarter. We've already scored to go up 14-10 on Bateman's bomb. Why are we having multiple guys just stand there on the snap? I'm not talking about not rushing the quarterback. In certain situations, I'm okay with that. Maybe rushing one guy or none. This is Harrison, Simpson, Van Noy, Owe at 3 or 4 yards depth, standing there, taking no pass drop at all, no depth. And then you get an in-breaking route from Palmer, finds a ton of open space. Herbert rips it. At the time he throws it, I believe his feet are on the 44. Maybe it's the 46. I'm not sure. But it doesn't make sense that it'd be the 46 because the ball was on the negative 49. So I believe it was the 44. We have 4 guys, experienced football players, standing at 3 to 4 yards behind the line of scrimmage. They're trying to jump and knock down the pass. Of course, it goes through an open lane, and Palmer catches it. They call a timeout. They hit a 52-yarder. Explain the rationale to me. We show a mug look. We drop everyone out. We literally don't rush anyone at all. And I'm okay with that in certain situations, but we get no depth. I think Herbert makes that throw 9 out of 10 times. Someone smarter than me is going to have to explain it. Slowly, please. Because I can't fathom why we're not playing. In fact, we're not playing. We literally have 5 or 6 guys not playing football at all, not playing any defense at all, standing still, doing nothing. I would prefer that we take actual pass drops if we're not going to rush anybody, still try to clog up the passing lanes, and allow a completion underneath for 6 or 8 yards, make them kick a 57 or a 58-yarder. To me, that makes a whole heck of a lot more sense than what we did. Again, please feel free to explain it to me in the comment section if I'm missing something that's glaringly obvious. I just don't feel like Owe, Van Noy, Harrison, and whoever the other inside linebacker was, I think it was Simpson, I don't feel like they're all doing the exact same thing at 3 to 4 yards depth, nearly identical depth, if they're not being coached to do so. Otherwise, we did play a better defense with significant force for the second week in a row. I think there's improvement. We had 4 sacks. Owe, Van Noy, who nearly forced a fumble, or actually maybe did force a fumble. Stevens is credited with the sack on the glitch blitz where him and Marlon blitz off the edge. I thought Owe was there too. I thought that would be a split sack. Josh Tuopa, however you say his name, he had a sack. We had 7 quarterback hits. Thought those guys played better, especially when you take into consideration Roquan wasn't out there at all. And that's where this win for me, I'm usually quite pessimistic about certain things. I think it's pretty obvious that we've played them 8 quarters in the last 2 years with essentially the same group of guys, different coordinators for both teams, really, except for Todd Monken. And we've beaten them handily in both situations. But to go on the road, get a win against a 7-3 team, coached by Jim Harbaugh, with a solid staff, we don't have Roquan. We should have high standards as Ravens fans, but I think this is a good win. It's tough to, in some cases, it's tough to accurately judge a win. For me, this is a solid one. The Chargers rarely turn the football over. I think they get to 10 wins, somewhere in that area. Their defense did come in allowing the least amount of points in the NFL. We just scored 30 while wasting the first 2 possessions. I've never seen Lamar miss so many throws high as he has in the last 2 weeks, between the Steelers game and then this one, and his touch on 2 of his passes last week against the Steelers didn't look good. So I don't think he was sharp, and we still walked out of there scoring 30 points. Additional to that, I'm talking about the negatives or what slowed us down, what made us not look great at the beginning of the game, is Henry's first 3 carries went for 13 yards. We're down 10-0. I think it's 11:30 left in the second quarter when the defense holds them to a field goal, and then Henry and the run game take over. Henry goes for 19 yards and then 14 yards on back-to-back carries, by the way. Lamar converts a 3rd and 5 with a short pass to Andrews. This is our 3rd possession. Andrews, by the way, was 5 for 5 catches to targets tonight, including the touchdown. Henry hits for 11 yards again on a third possession, and then he scores from 5 yards out. We got called for illegal formation, which I thought was the right call. I thought it was a legitimate call. Kolar was off the line. Lamar keeps it on a somewhat unusual option keeper from a timing standpoint. It looked a little off, but then he kind of does his signature fake and wait at the goal line for the defender to pass by, and suddenly we're on the board 10-7, and the floodgates are kind of open. The Chargers' next possession, Malik Harrison has a great tackle on J.K. Dobbins on a 3rd and 1. He stopped him short, in fact, near midfield. We accepted a holding penalty, however, to push them back, and a nice adjustment by Zach Orr's defense on the next pass play. It's a 3rd and 11. He drops Kyle Hamilton down, which allows Chris Board to pass the number 3 receiver underneath to Hamilton, and then Board makes the tackle on McConkey, like I said, 3rd and 11 to force a punt after only an 8-yard gain. We then convert to 4th and 1 from our own 16-yard line with 2 minutes left. Lamar hits Zay Flowers for 22 yards. I really feel like if Henry weren't playing tonight, if we didn't have that juggernaut, that Lamar could have thrown, even on a night where he's not his best, at least early, I should say. Is a beautiful throw to Bateman for the touchdown. I feel like Lamar could have got the 270 or 300 against this team. I just don't look at their defense in the matchup against us and see where they can guard us and stop the run at the same time. Flowers and Bateman gave them real issues. Andrews was 5 for 5. I have no idea how many players they trotted out there at right outside corner on Bateman's side, but he beat every one of them, to my knowledge. I think it was Fulton. He beats him multiple times on this drive. In fact, 2 defensive pass interference calls against Fulton, the second of which is on the 40-yard touchdown. An incredible throw from Lamar. And the catch was just as good, if not better, by Bateman because he got interfered with, number 1. Number 2, I think he's kind of falling down, makes the catch, puts us up 14-10. You got the ensuing debacle that allows the Chargers to close to 14-13. I've already kind of addressed that. We get the ball to start the third quarter. After we had already we had put up 176 yards of offense in the first half. Only up by a point, but we're averaging 7.7 yards per play. To that spot in the game, Henry has 9 carries for 66 yards and the 1 touchdown that got called back. The Chargers have also moved the ball. They're averaging 5.9 yards per play. Herbert's 13 of 18 passing for 129. So we'd been outgained 202 to 176 in the first half. Totally flipped thereafter. They had controlled the clock, controlled the game flow, 34 plays to our 23. I firmly believe that it's in our best interest to defer whenever somebody said it in the comment section a couple of weeks ago, and it worked out that way tonight. Tucker hit a 45-yard field goal cleanly to open the third quarter. We had and what I do enjoy about this to open the third quarter, even though we settled for a field goal, is that on a 3rd and 10, we get the ball underneath to JK such that he's able to gain some yards and put us in a better situation. Essentially, a 45-yard field goal is right now, I think, in Tucker's wheelhouse. He nailed it right down the middle. That 3rd and 10 pass play to Flowers, I think, went for 6 yards, put us in better position. Unfortunately, we let them convert a 3rd and long, I think a 3rd and 9. And they are able to match us with a field goal to get to 17-16. About 4 minutes left in the third quarter. At that point, it looks like we're in a dogfight. But thankfully, we got Derrick Henry. He took over. He converted a 4th and 1 with a 27-yard gain on a power concept. We really took advantage of their defense on power, which is kind of ironic because Greg Roman is a big power guy from the actual play concept known as power. And we utilized it against their O-line, even though we had a hold on Macari at one point. That couldn't stop us. Lamar hit Tylan Wallace on a 1st and 20 for 15 yards, left sideline. Same corners that Bateman was operating against. Henry converted another 4th and 1. This one was contested more, don't get me wrong. Only a 2-yard gain. Lamar finished the drive with a sidearm strike to Andrews in the back of the end zone. I don't know what the refs were discussing. I did see the replay, probably the same one that you did. I don't know what they're talking about. To me, it looks like a clear touchdown. You're welcome to let me know if there's something there on the replay that would cause them to review it or discuss it. Anyway, they got the call right, in my opinion. We're up 23-16. Chargers' next possession is when Herbert throws the ball backwards to Gus. And again, it's a backwards pass officially. It's called a run stop, a 7-yard tackle for loss by Hamilton. It's not called a completed pass. It's shocking that Herbert made that decision. Gus with a fantastic catch. Almost kind of reminds me of a catch he had against, I believe, the Giants in 2020 up the right sideline later in the season. But Herbert did get the ball out on a 3rd and 6 to Johnston, kind of like their patented underneath drag where they have blockers set up on the other side, and Johnston just drops it. He was wide open. I believe they had picked Tre'Davious White. Johnston dropped it. Very fortunate for us. Again, we're up 23-16 early in the fourth quarter. Justice Hill finishes it off. It's a beautiful concept. In recent weeks, I would say the last 3 games, I do think Lamar has misread the option a handful of times. I don't know how many. I don't think it's as much as like 6 or 7. But I think in the last 3 games, including the Chargers game tonight, he's either misread it like 3 or 4 times, or the opposing team's outside linebackers, edge defenders, know it's coming, and they're able to step down, force a keep read, and then run inside out and make the tackle. And actually, Khalil Mack did that once tonight on a 3rd and 1. Anyway, in this case, this 3rd and 2, the 51-yard touchdown run by Justice Hill is what I'm talking about. Lamar clearly reads it. I mean, they made it as obvious as they could. They ran someone directly at him. So easy read for Lamar. Gives it to Hill, makes a safety miss, because everything was clogged up in the middle there. And he just leaves their defenders behind. 51-yard touchdown run. It's really remarkable what the offense is doing, what they're capable of. 4 touchdowns tonight by 4 different players. Additional to that, we kept Justin Herbert out of the end zone from a touchdown pass standpoint. We ran for 215 yards. We didn't turn the football over. Now, there is a part of me that wants to say this. We had 4 different guys score touchdowns, limited Justin Herbert again, ran for over 200 yards, don't turn the football over. Feel like we should win by more than 7. Again, we have high expectations as Ravens fans, and in some cases, probably a little bit unrealistic. We do seem to have this plus-minus effect where we can play poorly, like at the Steelers, turn the football over 3 times on the road, still have a chance to tie at the end, and then conversely, this week against the Chargers, win outright from a gameplay standpoint, from a yards per play standpoint, but we did fall behind 10-0, score on 5 straight possessions, and still have to recover an onside kick inside of a minute left to secure our 8th win. I guess that's the NFL, right? Especially on the road. I do think there's a chance that we see this Chargers team again. Hopefully JK's healthy and play good to go soon, but by then, by playoff time especially. I think this is a better team than maybe we suspect. But if you look at the matchup between these 2 rosters, I think we are a bad matchup for them. We've outplayed the Los Angeles Chargers twice, kept Herbert down from a yards per attempt standpoint. He's only got 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Overall, in 80 combined throws the last 2 seasons. Additional to that, 8 quarters of play, 435 yards passing against 2 drastically different defenses from an application and quality standpoint. In the end, that's just not going to be enough against an offense like this one. With Lamar, Derrick Henry, Justice Hill, Bateman, Flowers, Andrews, just so many weapons to use. There's other players that didn't even get an opportunity to shine tonight. It's a remarkable group. Monken, for the faults that he has displayed at times, not committing to the run, tonight felt like the right mix. Until we recognize that, hey, we're just gashing him. Keep giving that dude the ball. Henry is that dude, obviously. At this point, he's got 6 100-yard games in 2024, 1,325 rushing yards, 5.99 yards per carry, and an NFL-leading 13 rushing touchdowns. It's a complete blessing to be able to be this good offensively on a night when Lamar didn't start sharp or on target the first 2 possessions. He made some ridiculous throws late in the second quarter. The 40-yarder to Bateman is about as good as it gets. This kind of sidearm 3/4 whip to Andrews for a touchdown over the middle, all on a night where we're without Roquan. Malik Harrison steps in, makes 13 tackles. I think it's just an illustration of how talented this team is and why we as Ravens fans are completely justified in having high expectations for this team in 2024. Appreciate you guys' time. If you checked out the whole video, Let me know in the comment section what your thoughts are on some of the ideas and descriptions that I put out there for the gameplay and some of the situations I think we did wrong. Basically, the late second quarter situation is unconscionable. There's no way to defend that for me, at least the perspective I have on it. You're welcome to let me know if you understand it in a different route. I'll have some film study videos coming out Tuesday. Obviously, a late night. Forgive me for taking so long to get this one published, but I like to try to provide as complete a look as possible based on the significant notes that I take and charting that I do. Appreciate you guys' time, man. If you think other Ravens fans would enjoy this reaction video to the Ravens' 8th win of the season, in this case, a 30-23 win over the Los Angeles Chargers, and please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.